Hey, Mark, how you doing today?
Good, Dustin. How you doing?
I am excellent. It's great to be speaking with you.
My pleasure.
Well, Mark, you've been on the road here as of late. I know you played in Chile, went through South America, back into the States. How have the shows been going so far here with this latest run?
It's been doing great. We actually made a live video that's going to be released here this summer from the Santiago show in Chile. And, of course, in South America, they love U.S. rock and roll, and when they get U.S. rock bands down there, they treat us like we are some kind of royalty. and I love it. But they know my heart because I am who my songs say I am, and that's why they want me back. And they know I'm about love and peace and about spreading that word. And with rock and roll, embracing who we are naturally as human beings and encouraging that, man. We've been rocking them hard, brother.
Yeah, you've seen it all over the years, as far as the music biz goes. You've pretty much been at it nonstop since the mid-'60s.
Yep, been right at it. I kind of, it's out of necessity sometimes that you have to do things, but I have been blessed, man, to have made my living with what I love to do, and I still love doing it, and I'm still learning, man. I learned how to play slide. When I came back from heaven, actually died when I had my pacemaker put in, but when I came back, I can now play slide. I never played slide before in my life, dude, and now it's just there. I think I might have brought somebody else with me, dude.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, there might be two of us in here now.
Well, yeah, you mentioned, the fans in South America, and, here in the States, it's a lot different than it used to be, but, back when you were on the road with Grand Funk Railroad there in the 70s, I mean, those stadium shows are insane. I don't think a lot of rock bands left could still do what you guys were doing back then.
Well, it's only because the ownership of the radio, after the deregulation in 1995, the ownership of most of the terrestrial radio stations in the United States have been purchased by corporate conglomerates who all answer to those who issue the currency to this country, and those are the families of the Federal Reserve. And that, when that happened, that deregulation gave them a monopoly. Prior to that monopoly, we had what we called free radio in this country, even though it was heavily influenced by these same principalities and powers. It was I could walk in to WTAC in Flint, Michigan, and I'd ask the disc jockey, Bob Dell, who was a good friend of ours, will you play this record? We just drove all the way from Nashville overnight. We get there, and Bob just goes on the air, and we come in, young kids with our 45 in our hand, and we say, will you play this? He put it right on and spun it, dude. You don't get that today. You don't get a fair chance. You got to know somebody that's in the business, somebody's uncle that's, high power, and you got to pay to play, and I don't go this anymore. I came up in a time when there was some fairness, and we were the people's band because the people had a say in what they were listening to. They would call in and ask for my music, man. My song Bad Time was played more than any other song in 1975, and I received a BMI award for that song. But it was because people could call in and request it, and that song was ringing some bells for people. It really it changed. In 1995, it became the suits. The deep state took over,
sure.
And we just been fed pablum ever since on terrestrial radio stations. They don't play songs that will provoke you to think about anything in the past. They won't play, Ohio by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, or for what it's worth, Buffalo Springfield. You don't hear them kind of songs on the terrestrial radio anymore because the suits don't want us stirred up. And there's this one cat that has written like 85% of the hits that you have heard on the radio, the commercial hits for all these boy groups and the like, all for 20 years now, or maybe 30. 85% of the hits, and it's just pablum. There's no meat in it. It just says fly, 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 fly. And people are getting, they want to dance. Yeah, it makes them want to move and stuff. But there's nothing there, no meat of the song like there was back when I was writing songs and they were getting played on the radio in the 70s, brother.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like also you were able to, take more chances as far as, the stuff that you did put out. I know you guys sold a lot of records. I wanted to ask you, covering Little Eva with Locomotion. That seems weird on paper, but, obviously it was a big hit for you guys. Like you were saying, things are different now, but you could really kind of, take chances back in the day.
Yes, and because the people were going to decide what that song did or didn't do, it had a chance. Now the suits decide what that song's going to do. The people never get a chance to hear the damn thing. It's the way it is today, It's the suits. And you drive from, and I can tell you this from being on the road in a tour bus, from state to state to state, the playlist is the same. Whoever is making up the top, 40, whatever they're playing, it doesn't matter. They're just playing the pablum. There's nothing there that will encourage you to think about what's really going on in this country. And so, that as the president said, the fake news has really got people, they bought into it, and they're living what they thought was the truth, but it's a lie, and now they're all screwed up on that, and their ego don't want to admit it, so we got a nation of people running into each other, I'll tell you. I see it because I'm on the road all the time, and people are just, man, it's getting crazy out there because a lot of people bought into the lie. The globaloni. A lot of people bought foreign cars, man. What happened to the big three? What you want to see what happens when people stop supporting their country? Look at Detroit. Look at my home state. That's what happens. The globaloni, it's rotting this country. There's no support for our own. And I don't know, maybe the chemtrails worked on us. They didn't touch me. I see through this BS. I see straight through. And it's the motivation for the new world order and all this one world government and all the crap that goes on in the wars that the U.S. Military are fighting is we're thwarting the nations that have the resources there in the Middle East. So now Afghanistan and Iraq are under the control of the United States, which the United States is under the control of the families that own the Federal Reserve, who just all happen to be Jewish. And that kind is the Zionist. I have many Jewish friends that know my heart and know who I am. They feel the same about Mother Earth and want to preserve what we have left. They adore young animals in nature, and they're kind-hearted people. But this kind that owns and controls and has that kind of power, they have gone nuts, man, with a lust for power. And they'll stop at nothing to achieve this goal. But we have to put our mind in touch with our heart again, brother, in this nation, because we've gotten it into so much video has came into the eyes of young people. Video, all the machines, these games the video games, chop heads off, knock. I mean, this blood and guts, kill. It kind of deadens the sensitivity towards that killing to that child. And then all the violence in the movies, man, Hollywood, and it's the same powers and principalities that rule Hollywood. They own it. So they dictate and they play the movie of the future they want us to live. And here we are a bunch of lemmings just following along. It's I made up my mind, and I had to pretend like my television set was my butt, and I pulled my head out of it. I don't watch that crap no more. I don't listen to lamestream, because I know it's all lies. I know their agenda is for the setup of this BS, and until this president gets his head out of his ass and gets out of bed with those people, we're sunk, man. We got to have somebody standing up for us.
Well, Mark, I know you mentioned while you're out touring, promoting, love and peace, and I wanted to ask you about that, and what led to your decision to lean more towards, the contemporary Christian style of music, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah. Well, back in the 80s, my wife left me, and I was reminiscing. I was about halfway through a 12-pack sitting at the dining room table. I was reminiscing, thinking about when I was 9 years old and my dad died. Billy Graham was doing a crusade in Flint, Michigan, and we had a brand new television. My dad had just bought it before he died. And I'm talking days after my father's death, and the relatives were all in the dining room crying and talking about Delton, my father, and my mom was just, oh man, she was so lost. And I was walking by the TV, and it was Billy Graham, and he's saying, if you're hurting, if you need a touch from God, if come over and put your hand on the television set and pray with me. So I prayed with this guy, man. I said, yeah, man, I need a touch from God. What's going on in my 9-year-old world? Well, when I did that, I felt the earnest of my heart and of heaven within me got in touch with something, because I was really, in need. And our Creator knows this, but through my life, I always had that connection, but I never was like a churchy person. I never thought that going to church was what made you a Christian or had anything to do with being a Christian. And I'm right on that. By the way, I'm absolutely right. But it's the idea of Christ is gone from the church. It's a debt consciousness. You just switch yourself from worldly debt into religious debt when you go into a church, and then you got to do this, got to do that to be accepted. You got to say this, say that, do this, up, down. Crazy kind of, ceremonial religious practices that are just passed on generationally. It doesn't have anything to do with a person being set free and getting in touch with who they are in Christ, in freedom, in who we really are, and because the kingdom of heaven is within us, we're dealing with a world that's out, beyond our eyes, and we have hardly any time to even delve into who we really are or make that exploration. And our life has been kept this way by those in power, and it's crazy, man. I mean, it's nuts. But I gave my life in '85. I reversed it. I gave my life back to the Lord, with my mouth open, saying this to a preacher. And I had gone into several churches after my wife left me. I was looking for God. After I had this revelation at the dining room table when I was sitting there, and I saw myself, and I said, man, I need God. So I go looking. And, man, I walked out a lot of churches. Hellfire and brimstone, oh, man. That's so far away from who Jesus is. Oh, my God. So I finally got in this little church, and this old guy, like 84-year-old preachers preaching on the institution of marriage and how people walk out the front door of the church and they don't instill that they just spoke, the words they spoke to each other. These oaths are taken. This is sacred in front of the Creator. This is a oath to each other in love. And, man, this guy's like shooting me. It's like bullets are hitting me. I'm going, oh, man, how does he know? And when he got done, man, I ran up in there and I said, I told him about my wife leaving. I said, can we pray to get her back? He says, you pray, I'll agree. And so I prayed, and he'd agreed, And that day, 50 miles away in another city where she was, she ran across some friends of ours who was a Christian attorney, and his wife, and they saw her sitting in the park and asked her to come to lunch with them, and she gave her life over to God and to follow after the life of Christ, which is just forgiveness. It's total forgiveness, and that's missing from every aspect of the religious circle. Forgiveness is not instilled, not the kind of forgiveness that we have in our capability. The kingdom is in us, but we're looking out into the clouds and out past the planets to try to find heaven. Man, we are coming from heaven, right? Every time we open our eyes or conscious moment, it's where we begin, and where we go back to when the bone suit expires, man. We go right back to, and we know all things in that state. But that kingdom is within us, and we go back to it. because of Christ, because of unconditional love. And that's why I'm a Christian, man. Everybody's in, nobody's out. We just got to get that message going on this earth and be thankful and grateful that when we all die, we're going. And it's because of love. It's not because we killed this many people in the war, that many, blowed this many, took this many nations, sacked that. Man, what is that all about? That's nothing but this ugly, evil power that's in play today. And it's man. It is men that are controlling this thing, and it's a sickness. They're just crazy, man. They're insane with this lust for power, brother.
Well, Mark, I know, nowadays for your shows, you're playing a lot of your old stuff, as well as the new stuff. It doesn't seem like there's any conflict, as far as your beliefs today and, the stuff that you wrote back in the day. It seems like you're pretty comfortable with all that.
I am, and I'm still the same guy. My fans know that I've evolved and gone through this. I even went, as far as I don't go to any church. I used to go to churches, and I played that game for a while until I was enlightened that it's not a free place. You gotta, in order to be accepted, you have to qualify by doing certain things, saying certain things, and that's not it. That's not Christianity. Christianity is lived out singularly within the individual, and what that individual does from her or his heart is what's recorded in heaven. Nothing else. Nobody has a say-so over your contact with God. We are individually responsible for not allowing our poor little mind to be clobbered with all this debt. It's fake anyways. I mean, show me a box of debt. Let's go to the drugstore. Is it the size of a pack of cigarettes, or do you have to get a dump truck load in your front yard and wade through it in order to realize what debt is? It's our imagination, dude, and people are dying from stress in this country because of this debt consciousness, when I died and came back, it came very clear to me. But to tell someone, a lot of people think, oh, my God, that's how I got my car, that's how I got my house, it's debt, but not just that kind of debt. I'm saying if you don't fulfill the expectations of other people and they put you on the shit list, you're in debt to them. And they let you know in certain terms. And people have been moved from a comfortable place in life by this weapon called debt. And those who control it control our destiny. So we got to wake up to the fact that it's us individually who controls it. Then we'll have a collective consciousness and be able to wake up out of this slumber and take the earth back for the sake of love.
Definitely. Well, Mark, I also wanted to ask you, around that same time when you found God, I know you wound up playing with Ringo Starr as part of his All-Stars. You don't get a lot of people that have that opportunity. That must have been great.
It was very great. I mean, it was a experience, and I thank God for that, because Ringo came to me after we were doing rehearsals up in Vancouver, and we were going to head over to Tokyo the next day. Ringo came up to my condominium apartment that I was staying in with my family, and he says to me in front of my boys and my wife, and he says, they told me that you were some kind of religious fanatic, and I said, well, what do you think? He says, I think they're full of shit. He says, I think you're like me, brother. I can't wait to tour with you, and we'll have fun. And he's a great guy. He is really a good man in his heart, and he's been bombarded, bless his heart, with so many requirements. I mean, for the fans, they want him signing this, doing this, and that. He's so used up and bombarded by that. He has put out a YouTube video that says, don't send me anything. I'm not signing it. I'm never going to sign anything again. Don't bring me anything. He was pretty adamant about, not signing that. And so even because if he puts a baseball hat and sunglasses on, dude, he looks like Ringo with a baseball hat and sunglasses.
Sure.
There's no disguising that man.
Well, Mark, you mentioned your heart issues. Are things going okay now, health-wise? Everything's in check?
Yeah. I got a pacemaker, that's impervious to RF. I can go through all of the airport stuff, and it doesn't bother it. I could have an MRI with this thing. But my problem was electrical. I had a bundle branch block, which prevented this branch of nerves that's in the lower ventricle from doing the contracting and making my heart work. So it was not the plumbing. My plumbing, in fact, the guy who gave me the catheterization, who they run the camera up there to see what's going on when you're in the emergency, and they had me on an external pacemaker. And he came in the day after they put the pacemaker in me, and he said, "Mr. Farner," he introduced himself, "I'm Dr. So-and-so," and he says, "I've been doing this. I'm 32 years old. I've done thousands of this." And he says, "You have absolutely the cleanest arterial system I have ever seen." And he says, "I did a 12-year-old boy yesterday, and you are cleaner than this kid. What are you doing?" Well, and I told him, I said, it's my genes and the fact that I take ginseng every day, but I take a certain brand that's still enzyme intact. It's still alive. It has life in it, and I take it every day for a blood tonic. And when they draw the blood from me, it looks like wine. Where other people, you can't see through it. You can kind of see through mine. And it's just the way it is. And he said, well, he's going to get on it. But the name of it is Ilhwa. It's spelled I-L, 2 words, I-L-H-W-A. And that is the brand. I don't get anything from them except I get good health, and I like to pass that information on to people who might need to clean up their arteries or might want the benefit of either reducing high blood pressure or raising low blood pressure, because it's a panacea of sorts, this ginseng. It's all minerals, but it's from the volcanic earth in Korea, and I use the tar, and but its health benefits are beyond measure. It's really, the Chinese been using it for thousands of years, and I think this brand that I'm taking it works for me anyways, and I thank God for it. But as long as my battery is good, brother, I'm telling you, I'm ready to rock. Let's do it, Dustin.
Excellent. Well, what's coming up for you then? Is there any projects you're working on or something we should be looking out for?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are going to release from the Chile show, the live show, we are going to release my first professional video. It'll be a music video, and that's going to be released this summer. And it's a video of the song Rock and Roll Soul. But we took it live from the video footage, and we put different footage to it. Our friend Carlos down in Chile, a brother down there, has really done a fine job. I mean, you cannot tell that this footage is shot in Chile and on the beach, and when they're on the horses and running along, there's a drone shot of them. It's the most beautiful sight, and I can't wait for the people to see it, because it doesn't say that rock and roll soul means this or that. It says, this is what I was doing when I heard that song, buddy, and that's what I hear from the fans. And I'm very excited to have my fans take a look at it and playing live. I mean, I'm in Everett, Washington on June 9th, and Detroit, Michigan, June 16th, and July 11th in Hilton, New York, and July 20th at Clarkston, Michigan, at Pine Knob with, it's actually the DTE Energy Theater now. They bought it out, but all locals call it Pine Knob, where it will be with Brother Ted Nugent and Blue Oyster Cult, and then CanFest at Grand Forks, British Columbia on August 10th, and August 11th, we're in Loveland, Colorado. August 18th, Montgomery, Alabama. August 25th, London, Ontario, Canada. September 21st, Taffin, Ohio. We're in Jackson, Michigan, September 22nd, and we're in West Allis, Wisconsin, on my birthday, September 29th. October 6th, we're in Palos Hills, Illinois, and New York on October 30th. River Falls, Massachusetts, November 1st, November 2nd, we're in Natick, New York, and November 3rd, the Riviera Theater in North Tonawanda. Yeah, those last three are all acoustic shows. Actually, the last four that I mentioned, where my brother Ricky plays bass and acoustic guitar. I play acoustic guitar and keyboards, and Dusty D'Annunzio from Windsor, Ontario, our brother up there, does acoustic guitar and bass. Him and Ricky switch off, and we do this acoustic show, no drums, and people love it, man. We do things, some of the obscure Grand Funk things like Mr. Pretty Boy, people eat that stuff up because it's just never been done live. It's not something a rock band would do live. But, man, we do it acoustically, and people really appreciate it. So I want to thank the fans for showing up and watching us country folk do our thing. Rock and roll style.
Awesome. Again, Mark, I'm a huge fan, and thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brother Dustin. God bless you and what you do.
All right, you too. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You bet. Bye for now.